Hello and welcome to the first edition of the post 24 season of Pop and Scott Talk Baseball. I think I said at the beginning, watch this World Series. It's going to be historical. In the way I thought it was going to be, hell no. But it was Freddie Freeman said, "Hold my beer, young man, and I'm going to show you how this game is played."
Even on one leg.
Even on one leg. And what a series by one player, Dad. You've seen a lot of World Series. Have you seen any one player do this in a especially in 5 games? Have you?
Not in 5 games. Have I seen players dominate a World Series? Yeah, I saw Brooks Robinson do it against the Reds offensively and defensively in 1 year for the Orioles. I remember, I believe it was the 1961 World Series, Bobby Richardson, for the second baseman for the New York Yankees, was playing the San Francisco Giants with Willie McCovey and, and Orlando Cepeda and that bunch. And he had 12 runs batted in, but it was in 7 games, not 5.
Right.
Freddie did it in 5.
Well, I was sitting there trying not to cut you off, but I was sitting there just thinking him, Babe Ruth, Reggie Jackson, Albert Pujols as a Cardinal against the Rangers. I was like every day going to work. That's even the casual fan, because this was such a big World Series. Dodgers, Yankees really doesn't get bigger than this in baseball.
Yeah.
It's just a classic World Series for ages and so much talent. I've been talking about it since we started this playoffs. So many people asking me about Freddie Freeman and so many people talking about the pitching and we saw Flaherty. This whole playoffs is good one game, bad one game. So that did not surprise me, right? What are you smiling about?
Some of the worst pitching I've seen in my whole life. I mean, both teams, when they went to the bullpen, especially that 5th game, I don't care who came in, nobody could throw a strike.
Right.
It was sad.
By then, were they just scared to throw a strike maybe? I
have no idea, but it was bad. I mean, both teams had a hard time getting people to throw a strike. I'm thinking a lot of it was fatigue. It's been a long season. I mean, you get down now, it's crunch time, and there's the pressure and everything else.
Right.
I listened to World Series before I watched the World Series in 1954, and I don't remember much because I was just a little kid.
Right.
But in all the years of watching the World Series, listening to it on radio, reading about it, reading the history books, talking to my dad, some other elderly gentlemen that have seen all kinds of World Series. I talked to some people at church today older than me. Nobody has ever seen a 5th inning like that 5th inning the Dodgers had, where Judge hadn't made the error all year and drops a fly ball. I mean, that most little leaguers would call. I don't know what Volpe did. He looked like he was throwing a javelin in the Olympics. He threw the ball straight down the dirt. Then one of the first things
Judge, going back to Judge, he did the Cardinal sin. He went to throw before he had the ball.
He took his eye off the ball, looked up to see where he was going to throw it. Same thing receivers do it in football. They look up to see where they're going to run before they catch it, and they drop the ball.
Right, Cardinal sin. Yeah.
Pop-ups going back towards the stands. Guys would take a glance down to the stands and lose the ball and drop it. But anyway, the worst sin of all was the pitcher not coming first. Cole not covering first cost them a run, plus they'd have got out of the inning with no run scored.
Right.
That was the 3rd out.
Right.
That's the first thing you teach kids in Little League when they're pitchers. When the ball's to the right side, you cover the first base. He ran 3 steps and pointed at Rizzo and says, "Hey, old guy, you covered it. You'll go get him." Come on.
Yeah, because I've had friends sit there and go, "Oh, Rizzo could have outran him," but I said, Rizzo looked up to toss the ball. His feet wasn't ready to take off and run. He was catching the ball first, thinking Cole was coming to tossing the ball.
Okay, when he's facing home plate.
Right.
First baseman's facing home plate. Your left shoulder's close to is pointing to the foul line. Your right shoulder is going to second base. Now, your plant foot to run is your left foot. You come off your left foot to run to the bag. So then when the ball was hit to him, he actually went to his right towards second to make the play. So he was on the wrong foot to make the adjustment to come.
He would have had to make a diving play.
That was the first thing. When his right shoulder dipped, he lost a step or half a step right there. Mm-hmm. The second thing was he expected the pitcher to cover the bag.
Yep.
He turned to flip the ball underhanded to the pitcher, and the pitcher was nowhere in sight. And they looked at each other like, what were we supposed to do here?
Yeah.
So it was too late then. And then Mookie Betts is running. He wasn't like Giancarlo Stanton trying to score from second base in the third game. The first game, he came around third, he looked like he was hauling a boat.
Right. I play a lot of baseball. I've seen a lot of, not at that level, of course, but it's baseball's baseball. So
not three of them in 1.5 inning.
Here's what my point is like Rizzo knew we've already had these two blunders. I'm not going to make a third. I'm making sure catching this ball and make a good toss to the pitcher covering, and we're out of this inning because these guys know what they're going to do before the ball is hit. It's response, it's reflexes. It's not, I catch it now. What do I do? And he went to catch that ball, make sure he had it, and make a good toss. And when he looked up, it was too late to run. It was the Buckner play in '86 when the pitcher didn't cover for the Red Sox. Buckner looked up and saw that and knew he had to make a catch and run to first. That's why the ball went through his legs.
Yeah, he could took his eye off.
Right. That's those types of plays that happen were the little things, right? And it just that was the third thing. I always say it's the third thing. And I mean, that
was Judge's first error for the whole year. The first error.
He'll be Gold Glover.
And then Volpe, that I still what he
He's
did.
A Gold Glover too.
Well, what Volpe did, and this is a cardinal sin, is the first thing when I coached Little League, one of the first things I taught and what I was taught: plant your feet, your feet, plant your feet, throw, step towards where you're throwing. I don't know why he thought that base runner was closer to third than he was, but when
he 100% rushed it. Yeah,
he rushed the throw. He didn't plant and throw to third. He rushed it and flipped it and threw it straight down in the dirt. And I felt Jazz Chisholm caught some flack from New York people for not catching the ball, but that was a hard catch. That thing right straight down the dirt.
Yeah, and he had to catch it while the guy was sliding.
Chisholm is an outfielder playing third base. I mean, he
was a second baseman playing outfielder.
I understand, but he's been in the outfield for a long
time.
Yeah. And then, of course, when Cole didn't cover first, I go, there's a full moon. I mean, It must be Halloween.
So what other for the whole series, because we only saw 2 games, right? So we had 3 games since the last we talked. Since the last we talked here. What was your takeaways for this series? What does the Yankees have to do to get back? Is there a lot did everything just break their way this year? Because me and you had the Yankees, I believe, at the beginning of the year, right?
I had the Yankees and the Phillies in the World Series, but I didn't have the Yankees winning their division. I had the Orioles winning the division.
Right.
I had the Yankees going through the wild card round.
All right. I didn't think the Yankees had it. I thought they'd make the playoffs, of course, but I didn't think they had enough for the World Series.
Stanton stayed healthy.
Right.
And that helped them a lot. I mean, as long as he didn't have to run the bases, it helped them a lot.
Right.
And the Yankees there were 2 things that hurt the Yankees in the World Series. First thing was on defense. They were in the bottom half of their league, bottom half of all of baseball, down near the bottom in defense. They were almost next to last or third from last in base running. So those are 2 things that are valuable. One other thing is, as long as I've watched sports, whenever you see the difference between winning and losing is a half an inch, a millimeter, sometimes a gust of wind. It's so the Yankees might have won that World Series if they'd have won game one. But when that game went into extra innings and then Freddie hit that walk-off grand slam after he hadn't hit a home run in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, he hit that grand slam. That took the wind out of their sails. The only game they won, and this was one of the guys at church said, well, Mike, the only game they won, and you said this was the only game the Yankees were going to win after that first game, was the bullpen game. I said, yeah, but if you think about it, the fourth and fifth game were both bullpen games for the Dodgers.
Yep.
And I mean, I understand that there's that they're talking about, and most of the players on the Dodgers, they don't want to leave. It's a great place to play and great manager and great organization, and they don't want to leave. But I don't know if they're going to be able to keep all of them because they can't pay everybody.
Sounds like they got to bring they're high on Soto. So
sure they are, but I mean that
the way their money's deferred.
I heard that Soto will go to the highest bidder, but he'd rather not go back to the West Coast. That's what I heard, and then. He really liked to stay with the Yankees, or if not the Yankees, the Mets. He'd like to stay in New York.
Well, but, Rizzo got the Yankees opted out of Rizzo's.
Yeah, I've got that as one of my notes.
Okay, so
I hope he goes to the Cubs and retires from the Cubs.
Well, my thought who the first baseman might be is coming from Queens, across town.
Oh yeah. Well, I understand they're talking about giving him. The Yankees are talking about him trying to get Bregman to play third base.
Christian Walker in Arizona too. That's free.
The Dodgers are look to make a big offer for Willie Adames to play shortstop. They get him with his bat.
Right.
I mean, the Dodgers, that team is ready to go next year. But they don't have many more years because they're getting old.
Right.
And so I think Freddie's 35 and
Mookie is there getting right there.
Mookie's I think 32 or 33 and and that but that series turned on that grand slam. That grand slam in the 10th inning, it just the wind just came out of the sails of the New York Yankees. Then when they lost the third game, which was when they lost the first 3 games, and they came back, won the 4th game, lost the 5th game. In the history of the World Series, when a team has lost the first 3 games, it has never gone to a 6th game. So karma said it's got to be over in 5. It didn't look like it was going to be over in 5 until the 5th inning.
Right.
And the Yankees got ahead. They were ahead 6-5.
Right.
And the Dodgers came back and scored 2 runs in the 8th and won the World Series. And then they brought in Buehler, and if he can't start, make him a closer.
Right.
His breaking pitch was unhittable in that 9th inning. But I think the Dodgers and the Yankees both are going to have to shore up their pitching. I mean, pitching is the sport anyway.
Right.
But that's why the Phillies, to me, are a big disappointment because they had the best starting pitching. The teams in the playoffs, they had the best starting pitching. Everybody else was pitching bullpen games. They had 4 quality starters, and their bullpen let them down. And then again, they didn't hit again. So it's what the Yankees have to do for next year. Come back with the same team and don't give up a grand slam home run in the 10th inning, you might be okay.
I feel like they need a pitcher.
But I don't think Stanton's going to be back because he's up there and all he is he can't play the field anymore. He's just a DH. Of course, the Dodgers. Can you keep any pitchers healthy? How much is Ohtani going to be able to pitch for you? And how can you keep your pitchers healthy? Those are the 2 questions everything else, their lineup and everything is powerhouse. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
And the Yankees, if the Yankees are smart, they'll keep Chisholm because he's about the only speed they got. Volpe's fast, but he's not. He's not Trey Turner.
Yeah, and I think Glaber's gone as well.
Maybe, yeah.
For him,
they got to decide who they're going to keep.
Yeah, I think his contract's up. I talked to some other friends, and I felt like I thought Wells would be their answer catcher, but he kind of was a disappointment in his playoffs. Now I know he's just a rookie, played some last year, but I thought he came up in some key spots and really let them down.
Well, yeah, and we were talking about a lot of both teams had runners in scoring position sometimes and didn't get them in.
Yeah,
and Freddie knocked in 12 runs, and the Dodgers in the 5 games scored 25, and he knocked in 12 of them.
Right.
I mean, and just like John Smoltz said, among the other 25,000 words he said, this most valuable player is one of the easiest ones they'll have to pick in the history of the sport, which is true. I mean, he dominated that. He dominated.
I was talking if the Yankees come back and win this series, they still should get Freddie Freeman.
Freddie Freeman, yeah, oh yeah. Well, that happened in the Super Bowl one time when the Dallas Cowboys lost the Super Bowl, and Chuck Howley got the most valuable player. He made 8 tackles. That'll tell you how great offensively the Super Bowl was. But I digress. But anyway, here's some good news. Salvador Perez, who's been catching for the Kansas City Royals since 1911. He's been there forever, and this year he won the Roberto Clemente Award for doing all the good work you do off the field, and he won that award, and he's the first Kansas City Royal to win that award. So that to me, they were talking to.
That's why, like him winning that is great because he's a great person. Great player, great off the field. And that's why I was happy for Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman had some rough spot with his son and other things.
Oh, yeah. His son is still.
Right. And he's one of the good guys in this league. Yeah. And he deserved it. And people don't talk about him in the upper echelon of ball players. He gets forgotten about. And I was so glad he did this on the biggest stage against the 2 biggest teams. And
well, see, I believe it was Al Leiter who said this on MLB, that I think he won the Roberto Clemente Award one year. And he said that next to winning the World Series, that was his greatest thrill. Was winning that award for doing good things for other people.
Yeah.
And Texas Rangers coach Will Venable has signed with the White Sox to manage the team. He's 42.
Poor guy.
Good luck with that. But anyway, he ought to be able to handle a team. He's been working with Bochy for a number of years.
Right.
He can't do better than that. Also,
he was a good ball player too. Will Venable.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The Dodgers. That was their 8th World Series championship. So anyway, they only got 19 to catch the Yankees. So anyway, that was their 8th championship. Daniel Hudson, after the game, that last game, he retired. He announced his retirement, 15 years in the league. Of course, as a Nat fan, he was one of the guys they picked up at the trade deadline that year, and he actually closed the 7th game that won the World Series that year against Houston. The Braves traded Jorge Soler to the Angels for right-handed pitcher Griffin Canning. And they're getting rid of some money, and Soler can't play the outfield. I mean, he's just a DH.
And he doesn't really fit like the goody two-shoes of the Braves. Soler's got some off-the-field issues.
Yeah, he's squirrely. Blake Snell is going to try the free agent thing again. So
I knew he would. Yeah.
He opted out. And Nick Martinez of Cincinnati decided to come back for $14 million. So he's coming back for Cincinnati. And you talked about Garrett Cole opted out of the Yankee contract, which everybody expected. He's got 4 more years on his contract. Now, the Yankees can keep him by giving him an extra $36 million this year. So they think, I love the way we sit here and I throw these 36 million, 42 million like it's nothing. I mean, I remember when $12 was a big thing to me because I only had 11 in the bank. And I mean, I just remember that being young and struggling and all that stuff. Me and your mom struggling when we first got married. I mean, it was tough. And then when your stepmom and I got married, and we were married less than 2 months, I got laid off. I mean, it was not fun. But anyway, if they pay him the $36 million, they can keep him, and they think they will because he's so valuable. The problem is if they do that, and then they want to try to pay, looks like $600 million to Soto. That's and it's just it's not like old man Steinbrenner. He didn't care how much he was over the brim. Right. He didn't care. He'd pay the
his sons are different.
He paid the luxury tax because he knew he'd get it all back because he was in the World Series all the time.
Right.
So anyway, so they think that they're going to do that. As you said, Anthony Rizzo was not picked up on his option. Hopefully he'll go to the Cubs and retire from there. Now, here's a good one. Cesar Ultra Garcia. There's a name for you. Oh, it's an alias. This young man, theoretically from the Dominican Republic, signed a contract with the San Diego Padres, 14 years old. They gave him $4 million, 14 years old, to hold him until he turned 16 when they can legitimately give him a contract.
Right.
$14 million would hold him, $4 million would hold him until he was 16. Come to find out, he's 19. He's been playing in youth stuff in the Dominican Republic as a kid, 14-year-old kid, and he's 19 years old. So now they're not going to get their $4 million back, but the Dominican Republic is trying to decide whether they're going to bring charges against this guy for falsifying documents and stuff.
Right.
So anyway, I just thought I'd bring that up. It's just one of those.
Well, that's not the first time this has happened.
Oh, no.
There used to be a lot of talk if Albert Pujols lied about his age when his family moved up to.
Oh yeah, sure.
To high school and stuff. I mean, there was all
I remember the Little League World Series one year. Yeah. A team from New York City had this kid on that team that was really good, and he turned out he was like 24 and had 3 kids. I mean, it was. So they got kicked out of the world. I mean, I remember that. That was, and Cody Bellinger decided to stay with the Cubs. So he's going to stay with the Cubs. He exercised the player's option to stay with the Cubs. Austin Barnes is going to stay with the Yankees, the backup catcher, for $3.5 million. Rhys Hopkins is going to stay with the Brewers for $18 million.
He actually had a pretty good year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he had a real good year for him. Yeah. Brandon Lowe or Lou of the Rays is staying for $10.5 million.
And that is Brandon Lowe, yes.
Yeah,
he's from Virginia. He goes by Lowe, and then the guy that's the first baseman for the Rangers, it used to be at the Rays, Nathaniel is a Lowe.
Is a Lowe, yeah.
And he's also born in Virginia. Not related.
All right. Sean Manaea of the Mets opted out of his contract.
Yeah, I knew he would. He had a pretty good year.
Yeah, Jordan Montgomery, the Diamondbacks, exercised his option So he's going to stay with the Diamondbacks for $22.5 million next year.
Well,
if he opted out and tried to go, he didn't have that good a year. Mm-hmm. So if he opted out, he would, he'd probably got about $35 and a bag of Skittles. So, anyway, our favorite agent has Soto, so he's going to recoup some of the stuff he lost on the guys last year.
Right.
So anyway,
I'm talking about Pete Alonso. So I'm hoping he don't do to Pete what he did to those two guys last
year. Yeah, because they should have grabbed the first money, and they'd have been okay. The Giants, Robbie Ray decided to stay. He didn't opt out because everybody knew that because he had Tommy John surgery. He won't be back till halfway through the season. The Diamondbacks, they picked up the $15 million option on Eugenio Suarez. The Dodgers picked up the $5 million option on Rojas, Miguel Rojas. And the Atlanta Braves signed left-handed pitcher Aaron Bummer, and they hope he's not going to be a bummer next year. 2 years, $13 million. And right-handed pitcher Domingo Lopez, 3 years for $30 million, and he's old enough to pitch. So he's probably from the Dominican Republic, so he says he's 35, but he's probably 60. But anyway, yeah, I remember that when Pujols, they said that he was 3 years older than what he said he was.
That was a big thing here for a minute. I mean, it's always questionable coming from places where they might not keep the best records,
Oh, yeah.
It's tough, but, when they get up into, if they can play ball in the majors, they don't care about their age, it's not but, you're thinking this kid's got 14 with the huge upside, but he's 19. Then you're like, what's his upside? But if you still think he's got upside, it's really not, let him go ahead and sign him now. He's 19.
Well, you already gave him $4 million.
Yeah.
Put him in single A ball.
Right.
Let him drive the bus.
Right. Sell popcorn. I don't know.
Yeah. Turn on the lights.
So this question or statement was brought up in one of my friend chats, and I've been holding it for you all week. Me and a guy talked to a Braves fan at work, and it really was an eye-opener to me. It made me think. This is why I'm giving it to you. I don't have a yay or nay. I just know the team did what's best for the team. So hear me out for a second. So the Atlanta Braves, they like to get young. For a long time now, they've always got young Latin players. They brought them up through their system. And what they've been doing is when they hit the majors and they show like Albies and Acuna a lot of upside, they can ball, they go ahead and sign them quick to extensions.
Yep.
Biggest money these kids probably never seen that many commas, right? Never dreamed of money like that. So they're eager to take it. Acuna's, wants more. But when Freddie Freeman's from here and knows how the system works, has people around him and knows how the system works, he goes to the Dodgers where there's more money. Do you think that is Braves are purposely doing that, or is that just the way the system works?
That's just the way it works. That's what they do. But see, you got to remember, they were coming up. They had to pay big money. They paid big money for their center fielder. They gave him one of those contracts,
Michael Harris. Yeah.
Then they turned around and they had a choice. They had a choice because they had to give Riley or Freddie the big bucks. So they chose Riley.
And that's what my point was.
They chose Riley and they traded for
Austin Riley was their next Freddie Freeman. Riley was injured this year, but when he played, he was good.
And he's young.
And they got the Olsen from.
They got Olsen from Oakland, and not this year, but last year he had a Hall of Fame. I mean, he was fourth in the most valuable player.
Right. Yeah. So I just thought I'd bring that up. Food for thought. It gave me pause. that made me think, like, because you're sitting here going, Freddie Freeman had, like, the man's led the league, and people don't know this, the league in doubles for a while.
Yes.
Because
they call him the doubles machine.
Yeah, he's gap to gap hitter. That's a big deal because you clear the bases with doubles. So he gets good RBIs, leads league in doubles, hits his share of home runs. But nobody really, he's never been the guy that the face of the Braves, much less the league. And, you know, he goes and does this, and then everybody's like, why did the Braves let him go? It makes people question what.
Well, he won a championship with the Braves.
Right.
So he's got one with both teams.
And he made his last contract before he retires. I mean, you know, I know it's hard to say these people, you know, they're going to retire. Well, we got to remember they retire at 40. They don't want to go and work a job like I'm doing. They want to live comfortably for the rest of their lives, and their kids want to. They
started paying when they started coming out with the several $100,000 contracts and things like that. The first $1 million contract, I was still working at Brown and Williams. There was a friend of mine there. His nickname was Bookie Belcher. Mm-hmm. And we used to talk baseball all the time, played golf together and all that stuff, whole bunch of us. We always talked sports. And I said, look, I remember when they gave Mike Schmidt a huge contract. It wasn't like today, like $1 million, you know. So they're paying him like $1 million for 3 years or something like that. And Bookie said, well, how would you handle that money? I said, I would take every bit of it and put it in the bank and live at the Y. I'd get a bunk at the Y, the YMCA, eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for a year, because I wouldn't know when I was going to get injured.
Right.
Or get cut loose. I was going to have some money to live off of the rest of my life.
Right.
So these players, they get all this money, and a lot of them, they spend it as fast as they get it.
A lot of them have good business people.
It depends if they do or not.
Circle. Yeah.
It depends if they do or not. That's the other thing. But I mean, you hear these contracts, and you're thinking to yourself, 10 years later, this guy's retired and he's homeless. Right. Oh, I found out he had 12 houses and 14 cars and all this. And I mean, you know, every guy that comes out of the bullpen is wearing a Mr. T starter kit around his neck. I mean, It's just, okay, I don't mind you spending your money. I spend my money on some stuff too, but that's crazy. I mean, make sure you got some put away, or your financial advisor has got you set up so that your family will be fine for the rest of their life. It's all you have to do.
Right.
And pay somebody to do that for you, because most of the ball players, they might not have the acumen to do it, or they're too busy training for their sport to put much time into that.
Right.
So
yeah, it's when we talk money and people talk, it is, if you sit there and really think about it, it's sickening. And we always joke about when somebody's holding out and they want to make, you know, they make 20 million, they want to make 30 million. Well, I'll trade jobs with you. You probably want to run back to that 20 million. You know, you just can't think of it that way. It's just,
well, that's the way fans think of it, because the fans have to work for a living.
Right.
And that's just the way it is. How can you? I remember one basketball player in the NBA one time. He was making $7 million a year, and he wanted $9 million. And they asked him why he wanted the extra $2 million. He said, "I got to take care of my family." Well, immediately people like me went, "Wait a minute, you can't feed your family and house them on $7 million? You got to get $9 million? Really? You got to have an extra $2 million to feed your family? What are you doing?"
Right.
That makes no sense. It makes no sense to people like us. And a lot of the athletes can't see that. They don't understand that just regular clowns like me can't figure out why they're crying like they are. They need more money.
Well, now it's an ego thing. So-and-so makes this amount. I'm better than they are.
Ricky Henderson, how you pay me $1 more than the best center fielder in the game? He wanted $1 more, you know, because he wanted to be number one.
Right. and that still goes on to this day. So, but yeah, I think this all season is going to be very interesting. We got better names out there. We talked about a few already. It's going to be interesting to see who wins some of these awards this year.
Well, one other guy that didn't get enough credit in that 5th game for the Dodgers was Blake Trinan. Blake Trinan. That was outstanding what he did coming out of the bullpen. Outstanding.
Well, it takes effort. We talk about
he used to pitch for the Nationals.
we can talk about Freddie Freeman, but it's still a team sport.
Oh yeah,
it's just
he had a grand slam. You had to get on base for him to get a grand slam.
That's right. So, and other guys had to do their jobs for him to hold on to it. So, I'm looking forward this all season. My favorite player is on the block. It's not happy about it, but it's part of the business side of it that people live in this time and age. I've grown up into this, so it's not nothing new. It's just hard to swallow when your favorite player on your team goes to another team.
Well, here again, when I was a child coming up, you didn't have free agents.
Right.
When you signed with a team, you were there for life, unless they traded you. You could be traded
or released.
So I was a Brooklyn Dodger fan when I was a kid, and I could name every position, what their batting order was, everything. And he's driving my mother crazy. You can't get any good grades in arithmetic, but you know all the Dodgers.
Right. Yeah.
I like the Dodgers, Mama. I hate math.
Well, I'm not upset because we talked about it before, and we'll talk about it later about some of these teams. If the Mets lose Alonso, it's not the end of the world. I can already probably name you our infield and outfield without Pete, and it's a good lineup. So
first thing I would do then, I'd move the third baseman to first.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Ventos is going to third. I think they're going to be in the hunt for Bregman, or there's another third baseman out there, and I can't think of it right. And they got a couple of guys in Ronnie Mauricio. They got tore up his knee in the Mexican League in the winter ball last winter ball. He should be ready. He's their second baseman. I know there's talks about trading McNeil as well. We'll talk about all the moves later. We got a long off season now, and to really dig into it. It's not as long as it used to be, but it's still pretty
there.
Long. Yeah. So we got the awards coming up here in the next few weeks, and then winter meetings is right around the corner at Hot Stove.
That's when the winter meetings come is when you get a lot of signings.
Yeah. So that's when we'll start hearing some buzzes. So you want to anything else, Dad, before we?
Well, it's been my wife's back messed up. I had to take her to the emergency room and stuff. But we had a great week because Monday our second great grandchild was born. So Alexandra was born and she's in good health. My granddaughter's in good health. So we've been celebrating this week our second great grandchild, and that's
my second great niece.
Yeah. And the other thing is this. I thought of Yogi. When Cole didn't cover first base, I thought of Yogi Berra. Here's why. When he didn't cover first base, I remembered Yogi saying, 50% of baseball is 75% mental. He was right.
Mm-hmm.
You got to play up here.
Right.
You can't just let your talent do everything. You got to be able to use this noggin. And that's when I watch your stepmom gets so mad at me because when I watch these players, I criticize them when they do dumb things. I said, you got to play from the neck up, guys. You got to play from the neck up. And in that situation, I'm sorry. You practice it every year in spring training. You've been practicing it since T-ball. When the ball is hit to the right side, you automatically break for the bag if you're on the mound. Automatically. I don't care how hard it's hit. If you see the guy out of the corner of your eye, you still break for the bag. You can always stop. So, I mean, when that happened, I just thought of Yogi saying that 50% of baseball was 75% mental.
Yeah. All right, then. Well, we're going to leave y'all with that. Congratulations to all the Dodger fans, the Dodgers, Freddie Freeman, Yankee fans too. They got there. They were in the big dance.
Yes, sir.
Just didn't have enough to get past the finish line. Maybe they'll get a little younger. They got a little younger during the season, but they'll make some moves. And it's going to be an exciting off season, and we'll get that started here soon on here. So please join us for that. Until next time, like, share, leave us some message or two down below, and we'll see you on the next one. See ya.